Not getting the newsletter. Peter is handing out cards. Do you have enough cards, Peter? There we go.
That's online though, right?
Peter's putting a lot of effort into this newsletter, and I want to make sure it gets out.
Yeah.
It's online. It's that if you're not getting it online, does everybody understand that? Giving your email address.
Yes. Anybody with announcements they would like in the newsletter, please take.
Announcements for the newsletter. Take a card too. Okay, redistricting. Would anybody still have those redistricting signatures? We need to get those in. I'll take them in for you if you want.
Next 2 or 3 days.
Let's see. Sign up for a name tag or a name if you don't have one. We have really thinned out our belly up to the bar because the election happened and all that election material, we had to recycle it. Monica and I took it last week and we took about 1/3 of the box. Carol has it.
You're on board then.
Let's see. We have information over there about upcoming meetings. Anybody here interested in naturalization? Carol had her first naturalization experience recently, and she will smile about it. Pamela, hold up your hand, Pamela.
I gave him a card already. I filled it out. For the email?
Yeah, no. I was just going to say, you were a naturalization person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Ann Froelich, raise your hand. Do you want to speak to them about naturalization? And they were working with Carol Madden and a recent, and I believe there's one this Friday. So if you would like to join me, please see me sometime during the meeting or after the meeting, and or see one of these people, and we'll arrange. I have folders for you today and a name and a button from the League of Women Voters. I'm very generous with the buttons of League of Women Voters. I believe in the organization. Okay, announcements. Who have announcements? Let's go, Mike.
I have two.
No, you're gonna have to turn it on.
I have 2 things to mention. We're going to execute another prisoner tomorrow morning.
Oh,
So we have a prayer vigil at Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church the night before each execution at 7 o'clock. So if any of you would like to join us, and we can commiserate together.
Address?
I don't know, Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church on William Howard Taft near Auburn.
103. Parking in the back.
Around the back, entrance around the back. Those of you who knew Ken Bordwell, who passed away a couple weeks ago, he's a wonderful activist. There's a memorial service for him Wednesday the 22nd at 10 a.m. at Peter of Chains. Wednesday the 22nd at 10 a.m. at Peter of Chains for Ken Bordwell, who was a Quaker and a long-time activist around here.
other announcements?
Anyone interested in an update on the collaborative agreement? There's an effort for a refresh on that agreement to get support for not only continuation but strengthening. And so there's a meeting tonight and another, if you can't make that one, there's a meeting tomorrow night. Tonight's meeting is at the Cincinnati Hamilton County Action Agency on Langdon Farm Road. If you want the address, you can see me. Tomorrow night's meeting is at New Prospect Baptist Church on Summit Road. The collaborative agreement is the agreement after the with the Cincinnati Police and to have reforms in policing here in the city. It began after the murder of Timothy, I forget his last name, Thomas. It was maybe a decade ago. It was a while back.
2001.
But, longer than a decade ago. But it needs to be refreshed. And there needs to be continued efforts to strengthen that agreement. And so there's people working toward that end, and they would like support.
Announcements.
I'm very happy to say that we got our first organizational endorsement for move to amend for House Joint Resolution 48. We're
Mazel
going to
tov.
be with you sometime in January, and I hope at the end of our DVD and some discussion that you people will be ready to sign personally in as a group or other groups that you know of. So thank you.
Just to tell us a little bit more about move to amend. Move to amend what?
House Joint Resolution 48 calls for a constitutional amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which will break the link between money and speech and between corporate personhood. So that those two are the basis of what we think is absolutely bottom line necessary to take big money out of politics. We certainly hope so. We think it's reachable.
I have to tell you, I was really pleased when I discovered that this Move to Amend group was using our Tuesday luncheon as a jump-off point. I'm going to a library, I'm going meeting here, or I'm going to another place to move to get their organization organized. And I'm really pleased that other things are coming out of this. I want to make one other announcement about, but I want to make this announcement about just a positive thing that I heard this weekend. Some of you remember that we had a friend of mine named Arlene Gillimbusky. She's a Peace Corps volunteer who has that special organization in Sierra Leone. She came and did a presentation to this Tuesday group, and somebody came out of the woods from this Tuesday group and gave her organization $1,000. And I said, yes! I was thinking, well, good is coming from this group. You understand? I think, and may more of this happen. Martha.
Okay, that's wonderful. $1,000, gosh. Oh, I just wanted to mention, in case you don't know about it, there's a new report coming out by, it is out, it's online and all, called Autopsy by Norm Solomon. It's a wonderful report on what went wrong with the Democrats in 2016 and what we need to do now. He's a very progressive-minded person, but a lot of us, I think, would agree with for instance, he thinks the party should support single payer health care and that sort of thing, but it's good. You can read it online, Autopsy. I have a couple of copies of excerpts from it if anybody wants them.
Well, we're here to resurrect the Democratic Party and some of the things it stands for.
Yeah.
So we are living proof that it's still happening. It's not entirely, the Democratic movement is not entirely dead. Thank you. David.
Far from it. Just a couple announcements. Chelsea Rothschild ran her first race as a trustee of Springfield Township. She came in third place. And I'm so sorry Liz Ping isn't here because she just detests Kyle Hubbard, and he got his head handed to him on a dirty platter. So
He's the gun owner, gun shop owner.
Yeah, and Chelsea's budget was a fraction of the
So she got the position?
No, she did not. She came in third out of fourth, and there were two positions open, one to
Okay.
Burning and honor law. Anyway, she's on her way. She learned a lot. She's going to do better next time. I believe that. While I have the mic, next Monday there is an open house. Springfield Township insists on developing 54 acres of land just north of North Bend, just east of Winton Road. They're determined to do a commercial development right plop in the middle of 1,000 homes. We are adamantly opposed to that. You want to come to the open house and maybe raise some questions and suggest why Preserve would better serve the community, please do. I have flyers here. It's at Monday, November 20th, 4:30 to 6:30, Administration Building, 9150 Winton Road. Please come and join us.
If you haven't walked Warder Park, you really need to do that. This is land that's well worth preserving. It's a really neat thing, and David, let's hope you can keep it open.
It just goes on.
If you have a dog, you need to walk it there. It's an amazing place. Other announcements? Other announcements?
Sarah, do a quick introduction. Sarah?
Get the mic.
Oh. Just to announce, talk about your group.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm from Chicago, and we've been doing some I'm in a very Republican area, so we have been
We're sympathetic.
Not today. Getting the Democratic Party really riled up there to try to get rid of Roscoe, who was just a horrible representative. So it's been very exciting. I also run the Northwest Suburbs Organizing for Action team, which is all progressive issues that we started after Obama's election in 2012. So doing a lot with gun violence prevention and women issues and climate change and diversity outreach. So what we're finding is people are revved up right now, and it is so exciting. So, but my brother's here and my sister-in-law wanted me to come to see what all you guys are doing. So I'm impressed.
Good. I do want to report on Noha Ayada. Do you remember her? She's our Muslim doctor who comes here. The Warren County people sit up here, and she was running for school board. She does not make it. They ran a very interesting article in the paper about her race, where they were talking about how racist it was, and that the people were using her race against her in Warren County. She ran a picture of the students who had gotten, what do you call it, the National Merit Scholarships, and they were of all different races and colors. And then she showed pictures of the school board, which was all white, and she said, "What's wrong with this picture?" And they said, "She's running a racist campaign." She came in fourth, just a couple hundred. The next time you see her, congratulate her. Just say you did well running when you see her again. She's feeling kind of low about losing. You know how it is. Okay, question. Susan.
Monday, the 20th of November, Cincinnati Women's Political Caucus is having their sort of post-election analysis, and it's at the Unitarian Church on Linton and Reading Road. Also, November 29th, the Ohio Dems are having a meeting, and it's Richard said it was sort of an open summit, trying to energize. It's usually just the precinct captains and stuff that they've opened it, and it's at the UAW Hall at 10,020 Reading Road, which is out in Evendale. But it's at 6:30, and I think we ought to all show up and let them know what we think.
Other announcements? Peter.
Just a small comment. Any of you who happen to miss Representative Shabbat this morning interacting with Jeff Sessions, he sustained his reputation for disgustingness by only asking him about Hillary Clinton.
What is this problem they have with Hillary?
She's a woman.
I think they're really trying to keep us off the issues of the moment.
I just want to give you an announcement. On December 19th at our regularly scheduled luncheon meeting, we have been able to secure David Pepper, the chair of the Ohio Democratic Party, so that we have now post-election, and we need to gear up for what happens in 2018. So he will be with us for work session, and we can ask lots of questions to see where we're going. And we thought it was a very timely time to bring him in, since he canceled on us once, so we gave him the little power trip, you know, saying, okay, come on now. And so I just gear up December 19th.
Just before Christmas. Well, we will not be meeting the Tuesdays after that. December 26th and January 2nd, we will not be meeting because we're assuming that you guys are having a holiday. I'm Jewish, I'm not having those holidays. What can I say? Okay, without further ado, anybody else? Anybody else? Going. Now, without further ado, Richard Asimus is our speaker for today. He is one of those people who got energized by the election. He had been a life coach. He and his wife had been working, doing other things and, kind of making their way, and then the election changed their lives and they have refocused with purpose. He's a hometown boy from Elder Xavier and UC, and he's come back. He left briefly but came back. He's working 8 to 10 hours a day on stuff. And I was saying, when I heard about this, I said, what kind of stuff? And then I saw on my Facebook that he had organized this Portman, or helped organize this Portman thing that was on Sunday to talk about DACA, wasn't it? And so I was saying, we got him! This is Richard Asimus, and here's doing stuff in our community. So here we go. He's a political activist, and he's going to ask us to be a work group with him today. Keep that other microphone real handy, and here we go. Richard.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. A little intimidating, David Pepper coming up, and I feel like I'm kind of in the bushes, he's kind of in the big spot, and I feel like I'm coming out of the bushes. But I like that view of activists, as all of us can be and are, in the bushes, actually, and working from the bottom up. Maybe that's what grassroots really is there. As Alberta said, and thanks to Liz Ping, who invited me to come to share, because my background is I started out as an educator, teacher, and then I began a design and construction company because I was ready to do something different, perhaps make a little more money, and with a family, and then moved from there into organizational consulting work and helping organizations create vision and plan and get people aligned, and then moved into my wife and I found 20 years ago this system for living fully, full of joy and excitement, and so we do coaching with that over the last 20 years and traveled the world, or the United States, but also many countries like England and Australia and others. But then we got tired, we're old. So we got tired of the traveling part. We still do the coaching part, but we got tired of the traveling part. So we do coaching throughout the week of people using Skype frequently, most of the time, for people around the world. But then November 8th happened, and I am determined to have my last years be part of the solution to saving our republic, rather than just watching or being a consumer. For me, there's a big difference between being a consumer, studying MSNBC, books, Martha shared a new study with me, thank you, I'm gonna go into that. So I do a lot of that research, but to do the action as well. And then in doing this, I realized the key is strategy, smart planning, high-level planning that goes into action. So I did it. I did strategy, I think, in my different business life and in our coaching life, but I wasn't using the word that often, and I wasn't applying it to political. So strategy, as I know now, the word began back in 500, it'd be 600 to 500 feet before the Common Era, before Christ. So it was a Greek word, strategy. It was done, strategy is done for the art of the general. So it was a military term in Eastern Roman world, 500 years in the Common Era or before Christ. So then that was there. Then in the 18th century, it was picked up to be used in the military in Western world. So it's a relatively new word when you think of the 1700s as a word being used. Then in the 20th century, it became used for political strategizing, political action, not just military. So, and I thought, oh yeah, I like seeing where the roots of something come from. What's the strategy? High-level planning for one or more goals in a situation with great uncertainty, which, of course, we have here great uncertainties that we have in the whole world. And regarding our republic and our democracy, we have great uncertainty here too, of course. So, how to strategize? You know, here's a guy in the bushes strategizing. Isn't that done by the big shots? And but maybe to be involved in action, it's an important guidance that comes from doing good strategy, even from someone like me that's busy working all the time and connecting people and supporting and helping organize. So I'd like this to be, I realized in coming here, I'd like this to be a working group, if you don't mind. Because this is something I'm working on and I'd love your help. It begins with a question: what to do with the Ohio District 1 and District 2 congressional races? I see a couple nods. What to do with this? And I am in touch with a lot of people. Some are saying, because of the gerrymandered situation, put the effort into Sherrod Brown and the Ohio governor and Attorney General and all that, and basically don't put it in to the district races. It doesn't feel good to me. So, but it's a big question. Okay, so we've got these two races coming up next year, primary in May, and the election, of course, in November. So what to do? So then I began studying more how to do strategy. And one of the approaches that I found that means a lot to me is the first stage. You first have a question, or an uncertain situation, something you care about. So I defined that one there for me. District 1 and 2, what are we going to do? The next stage is diagnosis. You really study what is going on, has been going on, what's going on now. It's a real diagnosis of what's happening. So you get that real clear. You don't jump to action. The thing I'm learning about strategy is you don't jump to action immediately. You go to study, research. You really go into diagnosis. And the second stage is to come up with your guiding policy. What is it that really is going to guide, now that you've studied it quite a bit? And this goes on and on. It's not like you finish it completely. But after diagnosis, then what's your guiding policy? And then the third is identify your action steps. And you keep this loop going. Diagnosis, guiding policy, action steps. So, if you don't mind, what can we do with districts 1 and 2? In doing the diagnosis, it's not jumping to action. It's saying this is a reality. This has happened in the past. This is the reality, given those two. And I'm doing 2 of them. How many here, with a show of hands, care to a high level about the outcomes of districts 1 and 2? Right, yeah. Anyone here live in other districts besides 1 and 2 here? Oh, good, we've got the core group. Right, so we care about it. That's one of the reasons to go into strategy. Why do it if you don't care? So, it's with diagnosis, you don't jump to action. You don't just go to emotion even. You go with kind of facts. This is a reality. So here's what could somebody help me? And maybe you already have somebody take notes. Could somebody help me? It'd be hard for me to take notes while I'm facilitating this work. Would somebody help me take notes of comments? All you got to do is get a few key words of what people say. Could I have a volunteer? Peter, thank you. You've got the paper and pen?
I'm trying, yes.
Good. Thank you,
My
Peter.
old hand is working as fast.
Good.
Can we vote on this?
Right, all in favor? Peter, hey! Great, because this is going to be part of my work with other groups, so I really want your ideas to be involved. Okay, so now, your understanding, your diagnosis, what you're seeing regarding these two, sorry to jump here. The reason I'm putting the two together is that I believe gerrymandering is a fake artificial system. So some people are saying one candidate who's running in the first district actually lives in the second. Well, that's a question, I guess. You don't have to live in the district where you run, but some people get that idea that you should or whatever, disqualifying, if you're looking for a disqualifier. But my response to that is, since the lines are all artificial, designed for unfairness, unacceptable really, anyway, why do we need to divide for ourselves as activists? Why do we need to divide the two districts? I live in District 1, but I'm working hard to support District 2. And of course it's Cincinnati and Warren and Claremont counties, and so that's why I like putting the two together, and I'm hoping that there will be a lot more coordination in this 2018 election than there have been in past elections. I don't know all the stories because I wasn't a fierce activist before then, but I am now, and so I don't know the whole history of that, if there was any coordination. But now I really want coordination, my personal coordination between the two campaigns, pre-primary and after primary, that there be a lot of coordination there. So, now I'm ready. Your insights, diagnosing the situation of the District 1 and 2, give me an observation, a clear observation of any part of that. You just start anywhere. Maybe I'll use your mind if you're close.
We probably only have half the population registered to vote and probably half of those vote.
Cool. So, good point. The reality is we only have half of the population that are eligible to vote because of registration, is that right? And of those, only half that might support a Democrat.
Might vote at all.
Might vote at all. Oh, cool. Okay, got that, Peter. Good. Okay, that's a perfect example of a reality. Thank you, sir. Okay, what's next?
Who needs the mic?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I just wanted to piggyback on that. I agree that we need to spend some time on registering voters, but we don't need to spend too much time on registering voters. During the Clinton campaign in Ohio, we spent way too much time registering voters and not enough time going out and canvassing and talking to people and getting out the vote.
Right. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I'm getting, because I'm an old teacher, it's like we were trained to tell people when they were going off the road. So, you were moving into action. We should be, whether to register vote or how many, whatever.
That's an observation.
That's...
The canvas, the canvases.
Make it a fact.
Okay, we need a canvas.
We need to, okay, that's an action, to canvas.
Also,
Okay.
the problem that's not, it's a fact, it wasn't done in a lot of cases.
Okay, so the point, Peter, would be that in the past, canvassing was done to a low level. Is that accurate? Yes.
I don't know if the note taker is allowed to ask a question.
Oh, sure. But if you don't mind, get that one down, okay? Okay, so I just pushed you a little bit. It's so easy to jump to action, pardon me, Peter. It's so easy to jump into action rather than keep going. This is the reality. This is the reality, to really keep observing. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
Peter.
okay, my point is, you can't canvass unless you actually have a message that may mean something to the people you're canvassing. You have to answer the question, why the hell should I vote for the Democrats? They haven't done anything. They don't care about me. They were sold to the donor class by the Clintons. I mean, there are a whole array of very good criticisms that I think, you know, it may not be time here, but I think we need to work through so that we can have a credible message when we go door to door, so they don't slam it in the face and say, you're worthless, they're all worthless, they're politicians.
So moving that to a fact and moving it away a little bit from action, it would be, I'm not talking yet about we need an action. I'm saying the reality is that no message, the message in these past races for District 1 and 2 was low. It was a poor or unarticulated, undeveloped message. That is a fact. Yes, Dick.
Number one, just this off.
No, just close it.
Number one, let me just say that.
I don't think it is on.
It is on.
Try this. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I just say in light of where you started, is I think we ought to think where we haven't yet, Greater Cincinnati, and everything that we do that's political, to break down this barrier. So that's number one. Number two, and I don't want to just be moved to amend at this point, but one of the wisdoms we've learned is to identify people's number one issue, what most pulls on their heartstrings, and then tie the uniting issues, and I'll say to us, it's the constitutional amendment, but there are other uniting issues, so that when the two are united, when somebody works on their particular issue, what they're doing serves the other issues.
Good. So thank you. So the reality, Peter, might be, help me if I'm steering this in a way that isn't good for you, is that the issues in these two districts are not united. They're staying separate in their silos. So that's a reality. Here's a little research that I'm working on that's a reality for me. And it's interesting that Janet is here now too. Yay! We're talking about District 1 and 2.
Yes, absolutely.
So in 2016, Chabot won over Michelle Young, by little over 18%. In 2014, Chabot won over Kondrata, if that's how his name is spelled, or pronounced, by 26.5%. So you saw that Michelle lowered the percentage that Chabot won by from 26.5 to 18, approximately. So that's about 8 points, approximately. So that's lowering. So that's a reality. Diagnosis, yeah. Look, the trend is, at least for that, is going that way. Now here's the challenge for Janet here, is that in 2016, Wenstrup over Smith by 32%. 2014, Wenstrup over
Mark Tiskevich.
How do you say it?
Mark Tiskevich.
Thank you. 32%. So you'll notice in the last two cycles, and you could go back and do diagnosis over more cycles.
Go to Big Wilson. Go to Big Wilson.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but that would be if we wanted to make a chart.
52-48 against B.G. Schmidt.
Okay, so much closer. So there was.
Oh, just, you know.
Way to go. So that would be a reality, though. But the fact that what Janet's facing is 32-32 the last two cycles, but then there was this. So part of diagnosis would be then to study in depth, objectively, not with all of our emotions involved, that the study is if a physician was studying in the diagnosis of what was present back in the 2012. Was that the right? Is that the year?
2012 was where.
Not 20. Yes.
2012 was where William R. Smith garnered 137,000 votes, even though he was an imposter candidate that never shook a hand. He got 137,000 votes in 2012. my win number is 135,000.
Right. So that's where you do the studies there. And what are some other observations for you? Not plan yet, but observation of the two, did either one of the districts or both together?
I've got the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. Wow.
Those that has the mic speak.
I know, the magic stick.
I was doing some research when I knew this was coming up, and one of the things that I found was that the data says that voting is emotional. So I think one of the things that I've noticed is that Democrats want to be rational, logical, informed, but maybe that's why we lose.
Yes, good. So again, Peter, the rationale would be, is that as we've been doing races, it's, if I'm paraphrasing correctly, Susan, is that we tend to go towards facts and policy rather than emotion.
We have to manipulate more emotions, is that right?
Well, we're not moving to action yet. See, it's just looking that we tend as Democrats, if this is an observation, and we don't have to agree on all. That's one of the things about doing observational work. You don't have to agree on the observations. We might have some that say, oh no, we're two this way, and another group will say the two. But the suggestion that was made here, or the observation that was made, is that Democrats tend to lean towards logic, if this is true, Susan, logic, rational policy, rather than emotion, which might be one of the ways that actually attract. Which one attracts? We don't know quite yet. Who's next? Oh yeah, Rob.
Richard, well, fact is that turnout in all our elections is horrifying.
Right.
But turnout in non-presidential elections is even more horrifying.
Right.
And what I discovered, because I was out a lot during the campaign of 2016, and I was everywhere from Wyoming, Sims Township, to Winton Hills, and many places in between. So I often had to change my Democratic sample ballots because I was in different neighborhoods. And what I discovered was that often I would talk about the candidate, people would often be appreciative. I had a number of doors, and I'm only talking to Democratic people that are on the list. Doors were closed, but sometimes I would hand them a Democratic ballot and they would say very politely, oh, I don't need this. And I would say, really? I said, why not? I said, they're all running. And they said, I only vote for the president.
Right.
And I was blown away.
Right.
That people would actually say that to me. And I said, you know, I said, it's really important that you vote for the president, but the president needs a team to work with. So I came away thinking, we have to do a better job. You know what, I know I was a teacher also, and I know that we teach civics in school. I know the importance of voting happens, but I don't know what happens after they leave high schools. I assume that high schools teach pretty much the same civics course, and yet people walk away thinking they've done their civic duty when they voted for the president.
Right.
So that is a huge problem.
Right. Yes, thank you. Yes, behind.
Along with Susan's comment, I would like to add that because this kind of fits in, tribalism is an issue. When people identify with a group, they look for reasons to be part, to reinforce their identification. And that's emotional. That's why evangelicals have decided it's acceptable for sexual predators to, as long as they are spouting the evangelical social perspective, which is gay marriage is wrong, you know, transgender is wrong, we're all threatened by abortion, abortion is murder, if
Pardon
those
me,
are
how does this
emotional.
apply, pardon me, how does this apply then, in your view there about tribalism, to districts 1 and 2?
I don't know. That's what we need to talk about.
That's what we would, you'd keep looking, it's there probably.
Yeah.
In districts 1 and 2, but it's where are we gonna see the real pockets of it? You know, I mean, young people is a tribe, and, you know, our revolution, the Bernie people could be called a tribe. The Antifa group is a tribe in District 1. I'm not sure about in District 2, but I think a point, Peter, to, if you don't mind capturing that for me, that she is making, is to identify where the tribes are currently in Districts 1 and 2.
Can I add another thing to that is...
Wait a minute, louder. Where's your mic?
I think we're ready. Pardon me, 1 second.
Okay, go ahead, and I'll add my thing later.
Okay.
Okay, because this builds on that one. It's I think the Democrats do insufficient focus on economic issues, which create the biggest majority for us, 99-1, and spend too much time on what I call the 6G theory: guns, God, gays, gender, global warming, and the racial one is generic white boys. So we're broken up into all those different categories, and if we focus on economics like FDR did, 99% of folks are on our side.
Right. Good. Good.
All right.
Yeah.
So sure to get all those G's written down.
Right.
I'll see you afterwards.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we're still looking at the diagnosis stage. What do you notice? Obviously, the gerrymandering is... yeah, another G. Right. Obviously, the gerrymandering, some people have said, I'm not sure it wanting to be more objective rather than just using my own biases and my own prejudices. But somebody told me that in District 1, I'd be curious about District 2 if there's any truth to this, Jim, is that the table for District 1 is 85 to 15. The advantage for the Republicans is about 85% and 15% for the Democrats. Now, I'm not sure if that's accurate or how they came up with it, but that is a reality. Gerrymandering challenge, the tilt, is so great that it's a reality that we need to work with if we're looking to win Districts 1 and 2. Yes, thank you.
When I was out canvassing, I would talk to people and they'd say, well, that's okay. I mean, I'm not going to vote anyway because it doesn't make any difference. They're all corrupt. So we have to change that attitude.
Yes.
You know, nobody's going to help me.
So the reality that we're facing is that many citizens have given up on the system. Is that would that be a paraphrase that would be good? Yeah, they've given up. That's just the reality. Now that'll eventually turn into action. But see, again, I'm pushing you to keep thinking of what the reality is rather than jumping too quickly. What happens frequently, I think, in my own thinking and planning, is that I have an emotional need to get these people elected, and I will react and I'll just jump to an action without really knowing what's the reality that we're in. It's a little painful to do almost, to slow down when you're in an anxious situation, like who's going to win these races in 18. So to slow down is painful because, I want to get out, if I only do this, I'll feel better. Or think this way, I'll feel better. So that's why I'm encouraging you to keep slowing down, which you're doing a great job of. These are some of the realities that we're facing.
I just wanted to add the whole fake news reaction to anything that goes against a certain perspective. Then it's become acceptable if if it goes against my identity, politics, then it's fake news.
Yes.
And that's become acceptable for the first time. This is something very new.
Yes, and I think that another reality is that there are two incumbents, obviously, in District 1 and 2. They have loads of advantage getting in the press, in getting their platform, and they can say things completely fake or not accurate. Yes?
I have another, well, it's sort of I got a questionnaire from the Democratic Party, and I ripped it up. All they asked were questions about Trump. And I'm tired of that. There's no new ideas coming from up top. And you get these things on your computer. They don't ask for your real input. They want you to go yes or no and then give money.
Yeah.
And it's really depressing.
Right. So a reality might be here then, based on this comment, that it's going to be easy to be distracted through the whole campaign for these two positions, District 1 and 2. It's going to be real easy to be distracted by the Trumps, by the establishment Democratic Party, even perhaps, by lots of in the media. So how to keep the focus on this is going to be a challenge. How much time do we have in this working group? I wasn't sure.
About 10 minutes.
Okay, because I want to go to the second two stages here. One more comment. And you have to put your hand up like everybody else, Janet. Not to put you on the hot seat. Okay, yes, Karen.
So I believe that when we are talking to people, whether it's canvassing, making presentations, we are doing too much talking, too much telling, and not enough asking.
Right. So changing that into a reality is that when Democrats work with citizens, they tend to do a lot of speechifying, talking at, and not really listening and connecting to. Is that a reality?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Good. And Janet?
Well, and thank you for saying that. I've missed most of your discussion, unfortunately. Thank you very much for saying that, because what I was going to say is I was going to preface that, when you listen to voters, they will tell you what's on their mind. I rarely hear the word Trump, surprisingly. I rarely hear the word guns, surprisingly. I rarely hear the word abortion, surprisingly. What I hear out there as I listen very carefully is fear, is concern for their economic future, and that's why this gentleman who had his 5 Gs, that's why it's 6, now we're up to 7. Your 7 Gs, 2 thumbs up to you, because this fear is very much centered around health, their health care, their future health. And that's the one key message that includes both economics, includes listening to the fears of others. And that is where our message is going to be, is we have your back. We want you to be healthy. And we can transcribe that into Republican speak by saying, let's get a healthy workforce.
Right. Thank you. Very good. So now let's shift. We could keep going with this. Let's switch now to the second stage. So we keep doing this. And I encourage you, maybe you think now clearly, I'm a strategist, you know. I mean, do you say that about yourself? If somebody asks you, who are you? And you say, oh, I'm a political strategist. I see a couple chuckles here. But I encourage you to be a political strategist. When you're an activist, this is a really important point of what I'm sharing. If you're an activist, I encourage, support, parade for you to also be a strategist, to call yourself a strategist, to be a strategist, to understand it, keep developing strategy, and then doing it together in the teams that you work with and all. Second stage, after diagnosis, you go into what some people call the guiding policy. For example, some of you are old enough to remember the missile crisis with Kennedy back way. And
speak for yourself.
I only said some of you. I mean, but the guiding policy, you know, they really studied that situation. He didn't overreact. That's one of the reasons he's given a lot of credit, is that they didn't overreact immediately. The guiding policy in that case, I remember, was we are not willing to accept. Our objective is never to have nuclear weapons, any serious military weapons in the Western Hemisphere that can obviously impact or destroy our country. That's the policy. We're not going to have those of those kinds of weapons in the Western Hemisphere. It wasn't a policy we're going to get rid of them in Russia or in other places in the world. It was in this hemisphere, we're not going to do that. That was the guiding policy. And then the action, of course, that they eventually chose, again, I think with great study, is we're going to blockade Cuba from anything coming in that has offensive weapons capabilities, any of the technology for that. We're going to blockade that, which of course, and stop them and send them back, which of course was very threatening in a way. It took a lot of courage to do that, because obviously if you stop them, and then if they refuse to stop, then do you just destroy them? And then of course if you destroy their Russian boats and supply military things, then of course a war could begin. But I'm giving you that as an example of a guiding policy and then an action. What would be a guiding policy in winning the two races, District 1 and 2 races, in your view? What would be a guiding? Susan, oh yeah, no, let's do this one first. This man, I'm sorry, Stan.
What you want to do is listen, don't listen to what people are saying. Explain what they're doing. When you look at what the Republicans have been doing all the time, what have they done in Michigan? What have they done all over the place? And what are their policies? And when they hire people to speak the policies of the tribe, and they spend the money on that, it's not what they're saying, it's what they're doing. And you have to listen to what people are doing and react to what they're doing, not to what they're saying.
That's good, but I'm inviting you to go a layer deeper into what is the policy that's going to guide the actions, the campaign, to win these two districts. It's a little hard to get to policy, but I'll give you a clue, because we're going to run out of time. The policy could be, our objective is to have two representatives, U.S. congressmen, congresswomen, thank you, that will represent all of the constituents within the two districts, rather than the over-adherence to party and money and all of that. So we need two candidates who are with the people. That would be a guiding policy, no matter what. If the Republicans had someone that actually could do that, you might think, well, I want that kind of a person in there. I might even support a Republican if they actually were that way. The chances of that are, you can create your own your own picture of what are those chances. Martha?
Yes, well, I just want to say, we must stick to economics. If people are afraid, they're afraid they won't make a living. They're afraid they won't have health care. Many are afraid they won't have a place to live. Now, we are Cincinnati itself is one of the poorest cities in the country. One of the very poorest. They remained poor during 8 years of a Democratic government. Mostly Democratic, well, and so what can we offer to these people that say, what's the use to vote? I'm poor, I've been poor no matter who's in office. What can we say and do about the economic plight of people in this area?
So our translating that into policy could be that our candidates, our objective is to have two representatives who will be elected, who are dedicated and skillful in creating economic fairness, reducing the inequalities in our two counties, or our two districts, and reducing that for economic fairness. That could be our policy. That could be our number, and everybody's different. It doesn't have to, we don't have to agree on this policy. But if you're a strategist, you have one that you are dedicated to. Martha's probably would be somewhat like that. But again, notice the stage here is different than going to action. What's the policy? What's the overriding objective that we want. We want 2 representatives in our region who are, boom, that's what we're going for.
Well,
Economic policy couple. One is tax Wall Street transactions 1% and nationalize the Federal Reserve, as FDR did to do public works.
Right. So that could be a part of that. Now, because I think our time is, how much time do we have, Alberta? It's up?
But we continue.
Can we have 5 more minutes?
Is it over at 1? I want to honor your points.
We have the room till 2.
We have the room until 2, but we,
I want to honor your time frame. So,
Wait a minute, I want to say something before I go.
yes. Yeah, right.
I think the guiding policy should be a little broader, like
Yes.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And everything would then be our umbrella, and we could go from there.
Yes, good.
In that connection, I think we need a discourse of rights. The greatest achievement of Bernie Sanders was the idea that health care is a right. I think we need to talk about the government is not the enemy. We have a right to decent housing. We have a right to education, and we have a right to health care.
Right.
And we have, in that connection, a fair tax system.
Right. And that's been doing this process as strategists. After this program now, you're all going to say, be able to identify yourself, I am a strategist, right? I'm strategizing. And I'm looking at the facts, the guiding policy, and now the actions. So we would flow into actions now, which could be some of the things that are already been coming up, you know, to highlight the tax system. It's not fair, obviously. Or that, for example, in our districts in Cincinnati, one of the issues could be the giving away of tax abatements. So they take that money so that person, now that person in Congress does not make that determination, but the person in Congress can be a speaker, as a leader in looking for ways for all the citizens. Dick.
Okay, a lot of times I think a lot of you see it, our reaction to Trump has been like a whack-a-mole game. Something pops up over here, we whack at it, and it pops up over here, and so forth, and we dissipate our energy without really accomplishing anything. We need to be very clear about being proactive as opposed to being reactive.
See, that's...
And if we all speak with one voice, in District 1, in District 2, for school board, for, you know, up and down the ladder, and really speak to the issues that touch people's hearts, we're going to win. We're at a turning point.
Right. They have really a program. As ending, I would like to emphasize again what Susan, I believe, shared. November 29th. This is a powerful group. I can see it, and you've been going on. Next Wednesday evening, November 29th, from 6:30 to 8:30. I think it's so important that the Democratic Party, Tim Burke is leaving after 25 plus years, and probably, you know, all great gratitude towards him, but probably needed to leave. And but it's 6:30 to 8:30 at the UAW Hall. Susan mentioned that. Please come, be an active Democrat, and they want to hear. They're saying it's going to be facilitated by Brewster Rhodes, and I forget the woman's name who's going to help him do that. The second thing I
Repeat that.
It's November 29th.
What is it?
Wednesday. Oh, it's the Democratic Party Summit. I thought it was cool that they came up with a name, and they're telling us, Tim Burke is saying, he's not going to just, what I call speechify. He's going to be, the group's going to be broken up into smaller groups, and they're going to come and actually do work about creating, it's the heart of it is creating the future of the Hamilton County Democratic Party. And it'd be good for you to be a part of that creating the future of the
Repeat the time and date.
November 29th, 6:30 to 8:30 at the UAW Hall, which is 10020 Reading Road in Evendale. 10020 Reading Road in Evendale. And I'm sure Peter or somebody will send this out. The last point is I'm looking for ways people are gathering or asking for input. The Democratic National Committee, Unity Reform Commission, that's a lot of words. Democratic National Committee, so this is on the national level, is forming a Unity Reform Commission. What do we do with the Bernie Sanders and the establishment, Clinton and Tom Perez world? What do we do with the establishment group and the grassroots people? That's their purpose, but they have set up, you can look it up online, it's called Unity Commission at dnc.org. I know it's hard to get all this down. Unity Commission at dnc.org. But please, they're asking for feedback, they're asking for input. I'm hoping the Ohio Democratic Party will have a summit. What do people want in order to change things? So thank you. It's so good to be with you.
Here's to Richard. I personally feel that we really need to be speaking with one voice. And I personally find it helpful when I get a list of the people that, the organizations that I endorse. I hate getting 15 separate pieces of literature in the mail, and then I don't know if they're Republican or Democrat, there's just names. I want them associated with the Democratic Party, and I want them to be approved of by the various organizations, and these are the people that we should be forwarding. And I think if we speak with one voice, and the people will go and vote down the line, if they feel it has to do with their health care or their emotions. And I think there is a future for the Democratic Party, or I wouldn't be here. So I do want to mention that we have some good things coming up. Next week we have someone coming for the Child Poverty Coalition, and she's a great speaker, and I think you'll enjoy. No, you won't enjoy. It's a really depressing situation when you hear about 75% of the black kids growing up in poverty in Cincinnati, and we're the 4th worst city in the nation. It's not good.
But it is a coalition of all the agencies around Cincinnati, funded by basically United Way is heading it up. But this is the Child Poverty Coalition, is what everybody's doing, what everybody's piece of the action has been in the last year. So this is an update to find out what they're doing. And Lynn Marmer was the executive director for that first year. So
we really next week get your friends here. We need to be addressing this and finding out how we individually and collectively can work on child poverty here in Cincinnati. And the week after that is Lakshmi Samarko, who is our Hamilton County coroner. She's an amazing voice. If you haven't heard her speak, she is amazing. She's very well spoken, and she speaks from the heart, and she really has all of us in mind when she speaks. So please, she doesn't want to meet you on her cold slab.
Yes, Mike?
What's the date for David Pepper again?
December 19th.
Okay, and let's have Richard back again in January.
He's already scheduled.
And continue.
He's already scheduled.
May I just
Janet is
ask,
already scheduled for January.
will we have a speaker from our revolution?
Yes, we will.
All right, got to.
I promise.
If you have speakers in mind, please get to Katie. Katie's our organizer.
I'm scheduling January now.
Okay, and with that, I need to mention food. We have food left over there. There's a whole bunch of food left over, please. Take it home. We do not want to have any food go to inappropriate places. Take it home and enjoy it. This is awfully good food here at this place.